So, hi everybody. Um, Welcome to October 2021 meetup. Um, Thank you for joining on Twitch and on YouTube. Um, Meetup is organized as usual by DotNetDevs.at, and uh, yeah, we are a non-profit organization that aims to share the knowledge and experience about .NET in Austria. We have a website, Twitter, Twitch, um, YouTube, and also a Slack channel. Give me a moment and I can share all the links in chat with you. If you don't know them already. So here are there for Twitch and here are there for YouTube. Yeah. Before we start, I want to thanks to our sponsors, OGS Software and Services, Theater Avery and Rubicon, who supports us financially. And also thank you for JetBrains. They provide us a 12 months JetBrains license that we are raffling. And at the end, I share a feedback link to our feedback form, and then you can choose if you want to take part of the raffle, and then perhaps you're a lucky winner and get one. And with that, let's jump into the talk immediately. Today the talk is by me, so no other speaker. Yeah, talk is state of test automation at .NET. Me, Andreas Willich, and this talk it's really as I wrote it in the abstract on Meetup. It's we start with the basics, how to do test automation from .NET, and when I mean test automation, I'm talking about today about unit tests, integration tests, functional tests, end-to-end tests, acceptance tests, and so on. I'm not talking about performance tests, accessibility tests, and smoke tests. Complete other topics needs another set of tools and would, yeah, blow our time frame for today. So I had some questions already in the abstract. I added some more, and these are the questions I want to answer today. We start with how to run tests, define tests, check results. So as you see, we start really at the beginning, and yeah, let's go through one by one from them. If you have questions, please post them in the chat. I'm monitoring it and we'll try to answer them at once, or we'll answer them at the end. Depends on if it fits or not. So, really basic, how to run tests. I created here a project here. You can see it here in Visual Studio 2019. What I did, I created a test project. So should have showed this. Add new project. If you search for test here and wait for half an eternity, you have then the different test project for MS test, NUnit, and XUnit, different stuff. I go more into later. In this case, I created the XUnit test project, but this is not yet about XUnit. Simply wanted to show how you run your tests, and there are three possibilities on your local machine. Is when you have tests, you have the Test Explorer in Visual Studio. You get this from Test Explorer, and there you have your tests. When we look at the code here, we have a class which contains the test, and we have here multiple methods, which are each a test, and these are then shown here in the Test Explorer, and we can press here on play. To see the result. You can also debug here. So let's add here a breakpoint and say debug. And yeah, you can debug your unit test as you do your application. So this is the one way. There are two other ways. Both are command line tools. I've already opened here a developer prompt, which is in the folder of the project. And we have now two options to run your tests on the command line. The first one is .NET test, and simply enter. Builds it first with default parameters and then runs automatically the tests. There are a lot of options. Since it's no build, and with that it executes the already compiled DLL or the tests there. .NET test works for .NET Core and .NET Project, and also for .NET Framework projects. One thing what you need to be careful is that it with default parameters it does the restore and build. So if you normally in your CI pipeline you make a .NET Pro, you have at least a .NET build there, which does also now restore and a build. And when you have afterwards again a .NET test, the first stuff happens again. So you could save some time in your build pipeline if you do a .NET test minus no build. Yeah, you save the build. So that's the one tool. The other tool, let's clear the command line, is the VS Test console exe. And this exists set since everything, since ever. And the difference is this doesn't compile, so you have to provide a path to the DLL. So it's been debug net 5 and DLL, and runs the test and passes also runs the test and all passed. And this doesn't compile. So this runs only on the produced DLL, but it's also supporting also .NET Framework and .NET Core, .NET 5. So you can use what you want. At the end, it both have the same underlying technology called VS Test, and yeah, VS Test console X is only available on Windows. If you're running on a Linux or a Mac OS agent or work on a Mac or a Linux desktop, you need .NET test for the stuff. Some questions from the chat is, so is .NET Test supporting all types of unit tests, project, EA, MS test? Yes. The short answer is yes. The long answer is in all these projects what's created, you have multiple project edits. And when we have a look at here in this project, so this, when look at the reference packages, this is the test SDK that we need always. And then we have here for XUnit two packages. The first one is the library itself for all the code, and the second package is a runner, a VS test adapter. So as I said, there is the underlying technology called VS Test, and there is a plugin interface. There they call test adapters, and every XUnit, MS Test, NUnit have such a test adapter to plug into this. And so this you need that they play together, and so .NET Test or VS Test Console actually works with that. The last package here is for code coverage, but I come to that later. One comment. Stefan, I think the tip you meant was the no build tip. Yeah, I can resize this, make this a little bit bigger. So that's the packages. Yeah, that's the 3 ways you run your tests. So now you have that. So let's go to the next question. So now we can now run the test, but how you can define a test. Sorry for this always short interruptions. I have a little bit of a cough. So how do we define a test? So I'm now here in Visual Studio 2022, and let's have a quick look at the 3 big test runners, unit test frameworks, and how to define them. Let's start with MS Test. So remove the stuff and make this big. When you define tests, there are 2 main different types. What you can do is first is always you have methods without a parameter. So normal test method, method. In MS Test you add the test method attribute on the method, and then you can write here is your test code. What you also can do is there is in MS Test and all the others is have parameters for the test, and you can define this here. This is then called the data test method, and with the data row you specify the parameter you want this here. And when you have a look now in the Test Explorer here, you see we have our test class, that's here, and then we have our test method, and here we have our series test method with these 2 parameters, and these are the ones. So that's the, and what you need is, it needs to be a public class, and it needs the test class attribute on the class that it works. If you leave that out and then compile, it's gone. So don't forget this. Let's have a look at the next one, NUnit. Let's remove that. It's similar. They all 3 are quite similar. There are some nuances between them. So in NUnit, let's put them side by side. In NUnit, it's the attribute for the single method is test. And for the test case, where you have the parameter, you have test case. You don't need an extra attribute, and it looks similar in the Test Explorer, like for MS Test. And for XUnit, I'm getting XUnit. It's also nearly identical to NUnit, so it's called fact. The method for the single method, and for parameters it's called series. And again in the Test Explorer it looks similar. And that's Um, that's the starting point. There are a lot of, so if you want to see more about this difference about MS Test, NUnit, and XUnit, I I can only recommend to have a look at this talk, what is also by me. What I go into the difference between these three unit test provider in detail, and yeah. Yeah, it's a whole separate talk only to see the differences there. Um, there isn't short version is it depends on your use case what you want. Every one of these has a special features that you might need, don't need. So it depends always on the project and your preferences. Which of the three is there? There is not one best and there's not one worse. So, next step. How do we check if a test result is valid? So how do we check if the test is doing something? Let's open the next project. The solution. So, there are multiple. NUnit is the best. NUnit is one of the oldest ones. XUnit is quite new relative to the others. So, how do we write asserts? How do we check that what we are doing, that what we are testing is returning the right one? So first, every unit test runner has their built-in assertion library. XUnit has one, NUnit has one, MS Test has one. It's like here you have an assert class with a lot of static methods with the different things what you can and want to check. In that case, that is XUnit, is at an assert equal, where we check expect and actual. And as this is failing, it's here red, and you see here the message. And I must say XUnit has quite nice error messages in that case. But there are also some libraries that can help you write your assertion statements. There are two main libraries. The first one is Fluent Assertion, and the second one is Shoodly, and both are doing the same. So what they are doing, they give you a fluent interface to write your assert. So here we have fluent assertions, and what you can do when you add the package and the using statements, you can then say actual should. This is the entry point, and then you have the different kinds of comparison. So you have the should be positive, be negative, be of type, and so on. Should be expected. And I personally like these kinds of fluent and APIs because it makes so much more readable. And I'm honest. I always switch. I always forget which of the two parameters is expected and actual. Then my error messages are the wrong way around. So we have fluent assertions, but there's also a second one, Shoodly. That has the same feature. There you save one entry point, but you have nearly the same functionality. The main difference I think see is in the how the error messages are created. So you have here shouldly, where you get nice messages, fluent assertions and shouldly, and the X units are quite one. And this is only integer, but if you have long strings, um, the comparison is so much better than the normal equals stuff. Um, yeah, so I can highly recommend using one of these tools. I'm personally always using fluent assertions, but it's up to you. So that's which is better, personal preference. I can't answer this. Um, Shootly is the newer one, and I using fluent assertions since years, and it always worked well for me. And yeah, I stick to the tool that I knew. Good. So that's the defining on of checking the results. Now let's go a little bit more um, concrete. So how to automate a desktop, web, and mobile application. And uh, here I can't really I have no examples here because it's too big and too special to do. But there is a tool for everything. So for desktop, web, and mobile application. So perhaps you know already the logos. So this is the logo is Selenium. Um, Selenium is the I would say currently the standard for web automation for web applications. Um, since years, there's now Selenium 4 new version. Um, um, then this is Appium. The logo is Appium. Appium is the tool that you can use for mobile applications and also for desktop applications. There's the Windows App Driver. That's what you can then use to automate the stuff. And the nice things between these two, they have the same interface. So they based on the WebDriver protocol, and they have the same the same APIs and how you find elements and interact with them. So Appium brings this API that Selenium provides to testing mobile and desktop applications. Um, the one at the bottom right is Playwright. I'm sorry. That's a quite new tool. It's only 1.5 years old, I think. That's also for UI automation for web applications, and it's awesome. Simply. So, played around with it beginning of the year, end of last year, and it makes so much things easier than it's in Selenium 3. I don't know how it's in Selenium 4. Um, but yeah, it works and it's awesome, and you have the multiple browser stuff and parallel execution, so works quite nice out of the box. So if you want to write your test against your web application, give Playwright a try. to see if you like it or not. One thing, Cypress IO you can't use. I often get questions if you can use Cypress in .NET. No, you can't. Cypress is completely JavaScript based. So there's no, let's say, easy interaction with it. You can test your web application, but you test it with a JavaScript tool. If you, yeah, you simply can't use it. I'm getting this quite often asked in my day job. Yeah, so there is tool for everything. That's this. These three tools cover, I would say, 90% of the stuff, of the applications you normally run into, and when you do an desktop when you do an application. So sorry. So next question is how to handle internal dependencies. Did I? Yeah, internal dependencies. I think I jumped over one. What do I mean with internal dependencies? So let's close all this code. What do I mean is, let's have a look at here. Very reduced example. We have a logic class what does something, but it has a dependency on something else, and this has a side effect. And you want to write now a test for this myLogic class, and test this to some important stuff. So what we do is we have here our logic class. This dependency with side effect doesn't do anything. It's not implemented yet. When we have a look at the test, what did it do? Yeah, we instantiate the class with the dependency. We call the method. We check that it's true. And when it runs, when we run the tests now, run, it fails. Yeah, why? Because, yeah, we use the real dependency, and yeah, this has the exception. Throws an exception, so the test fails. That's an example. So with side effect, this could be a change in the database, this could be a change in the file system, or anything. Something you don't want to happen when you test the logic class. And so you need to, make it so that this dependency isn't called in your unit tests. And this is where it goes into faking, mocking, stubbing of this interface, this implementation. How is this done? Normally, you can do it on your own, and I forget this example because this is relevant. So let's make so you can do it manually. So this myLogic class, what it is because we're using dependency injection, IRC containers, we have an interface of the dependency with side effects, and this has one implementation. What we do need in our test is we need another implementation of this interface. So we can public class test dependency, dependency with side effect, and we can implement this interface, and this does nothing. And what we can do is now, instead of using the real interface, we're using our test dependency. And when we build this, we have already here the test, run this, it gets green. So this is, you write your own implementation of a dependency in your tests for the tests with the appropriate behavior to do this. So, and not quite, would say, straightforward. But yeah, and as there was already some discussion about too many boilerplate code, these are 6 lines of code. And as usual, there's also a library for doing this mocking, stubbing, and faking stuff. And there are quickly want to show you three different ones. The first one is fake it easy, and the main difference between is, I would say, that the API is a little bit different. So, when you import the namespace, you have this A class here, fake with the type, and where it is, there's it, and you can here add an action, add some options to it to configure it, and as in our case we don't need a big configuration, so it does nothing in the default. We get the mock, we pass it as the dependency, we call it everything is green. That's fake it easy. The second one is mock queue, a little bit more concrete. So you say here mock with the dependencies, you can do then get this instance here and have setups, setup methods and everything. You have also verify method to check if the method is called or not and how many often, so you can do the configuration. Your mocked object you get with .object, and that's it. And default is also not doing nothing and returns true. And the last one is an substitute, and it's similar to fake it easy. Substitute for with the interface, pass it there and there. So these are the three biggest libraries for faking, mocking, stubbing. Yeah, it's always again a matter of personal choice which APIs you like. Yeah. Good. To the question with the WinApp driver code, is where I come then back at the end. So this is internal dependencies. How do you handle external dependencies? So external dependencies, I mean everything what's not in your code base, and this is the part of test automation where it gets hard. So really hard. So first thing is, don't try to get into this mess that you need to call something external in your tests. So in faking, mocking, make another different implementation for the interface. Yeah, if you need to call a service, a web service, make an abstraction and mock the interface in your tests. Something like that. So try that you don't need to call this external thing, because this is always time. So this adds up to execution time a lot. If you can't do this, you need to try to set up a new instance for every test run or every test of the stuff what you need. So let's say, and this is for the next also for the example here is, if you need a good thing is the usual example is a database. You're storing stuff in the database, and you need for some reasons a database for your tests, automated tests, for your integration tests. And one way, what really nice is, use Docker for it. So there is a Fluent Docker library. Give me a minute. I show it. Really cool Fluent Docker library. What you can, and I shared this link in the chat. What you can use, start Docker container via API for your test run, and this is, so I did it for some I use it for in work for SQL Server. Start up the SQL Server, new Docker image with the SQL Server for the test run, and in between I simply killed the data in it for every test. Yeah, and it's also supporting also not only Docker files but also Docker Compose. So quite a cool library to start up these things, or you need to start up your whole ASP. If you only want to do unit testing against your web UI, you can start up the whole application and database and everything else what you need with Docker Compose, and test against it. Sorry. Yeah, but try to don't get in this. It's I know it's hard. And sometimes you can't avoid it, but try to avoid it. And there's also, yeah, already mentioned how to run your app locally for tests, like a Docker container. So for the three types, you have desktop, web, and mobile. And yeah, for desktop, yeah, process start, or the Windows app driver also starts, I think, the application by default. That's easy. For web application, the next one way would be run it in process with Kessler. For that, I show you an example in a moment. And the last, for mobile, there Appium handles all the uploading of the application to the device and emulator and starting there. So Appium does handle this. But let's have a look at the web example, how this works. So where's my Visual Studio? So what we have here is we have a solution with two projects. We have one ASP.NET Core application. I think it's 5. Yes. And we have one unit test project. And I start this quickly. Setup start. And no, don't want to use this. Call it directly. So, and this is the normal application that comes out of the new project wizard. That's it. So this is already running locally with Kestrel. Kestrel is the .NET web server for .NET Core. And when you have a little unit test, the nice thing is, yeah, it has an API and you can reuse it. And it's a little bit more tests. So we have one. This is only example code. We have a test method which starts the web server, waits then a minute and stops it. So not really, it's only about starting it. And what is starting first? We generate a host name. We create a randomized port where it's working, where it's should listen to, and then we use, this is abstracted host builder class with some overrides, and we create a host builder with the parameters. The interesting thing is we need to provide the correct location where the web root is, so where the JavaScript and CSS stuff is all located. We need to provide the correct path. We say build, then we make a start async, configure await, so not the nicest way of fire and forget. And I see already the comment from Stefan. And now the web server is running, and when we, with the stop method, we are stopping it, and it's now. So to show you, let's make here a breakpoint and run the test in debug. So let's copy the host name, start it, so we know the sleep here, and here's our web server running in test, and our application is running completely with everything. And if you want now we could use the Selenium to access it and do a test, and at the end we stop it again and done. Yeah, so there are also other possibilities to do this. There is WAF, I think it's called WAF. There's some testing. You can decide, Kestrel and the web has so many layers what you want to start up, and depending on what you need, you could do less. This is full Kestrel, like you are running your application with. It's the same. Yeah. Last thing is some points how to make your life easier with test automation. So the first thing is code coverage is also always a question here, that you see what parts are you covering with your tests. There are two ways I know what I used. This one is Coverlet. That's an open source tool that works, and there's also included in the so sadly VS Test and stuff would have functions for that, but it's only in the enterprise edition of Visual Studio, and not everybody has it. But I want to show this to you. For that I have to go back to Visual Studio 2019. Sorry. So Coverlet that coverlet works is, yeah, you need the NuGet package, and that I see it here immediately in. Let's run the tests again. Yeah, .cover is also by JetBrains is also there, but you have also to buy it. Yeah, that's true. I forgot that. Concentrated on .cover on coverlet because it's included in some of the templates. So all run. So, and what I did is there is a Visual Studio extension called Fine Code Coverage, what takes the result of coverlet and displays you in Visual Studio, and this is also here down. You see a coverage report, how much stuff is covered. By it, so that's coverlet, and for Visual Studio Enterprise, you have here in the menu bar analyze code coverage, and it runs. And then you get a code coverage result here, and also some reports, and you can show code coverage things. It covers different. You see here the background changes slightly. It's not. You can change this in the option. I'm not happy with the default highlighting stuff. Yeah, that's code coverage, and one thing is if you want, now what I showed you is all coded tests sometimes, or good interesting ways, sometimes, quite often. You want to, or if you want to discuss with stakeholders and end users discuss how stuff should behave, often coded test doesn't work, so there are ways to use a plain language for describing the behavior. We are talking about behavior driven development and Gherkin and so on. There's one tool called SpecFlow, what helps you with automating your plain language for your test automation. Full disclosure, I'm the community manager of this project and the products. So yeah, if you want to check it out, we always have every month getting started webinar for it. Explaining SpecFlow now would take an hour or so and would throw off every timetable. So I only can point you to our getting started webinars for now, for this quick overview. There we are explaining you what's SpecFlow and what benefits it has. There. And yeah, with that, all the questions, I think they got this for all the questions. All the code examples are on GitHub. I quickly share this link with you, and yeah, now it's already Q&A section, and there are some in chat. So there was a question, how did I set up coverlet? The nice thing is it comes from it's already included in the template, at least in 2019. Is it also no? Yeah, it's also in 2022 included. The package, and all what I needed is that I have it within Visual Studio, the results, and this to install this fine code coverage extension. That's that one, and did I show you in 2019 because this extension is only available at the moment for 2019. So that was what I did. So there was a point by Code Whisperer about the WinApp trial. So the statement was, WinApp trial project seems to be lacking resources. Is it an orphan project of Microsoft? Does anybody know anything about the commitment of Microsoft to the project? Yes, a little. So it's they wrote an issue about this. Yeah, it's a little bit dormant on the public side. So what thing is, the Windows app driver itself is not open source. What you have here on the GitHub project is mainly documentation and samples, not the app driver itself. Sorry. And yeah, the one thing is yeah, it looks dormant. 74 issues, pull requests open, but they linked and there they did in July they wrote an app driver and explained this. So looks like Windows 11 and ARM64 support was a little bit complicated, and they focus on that because they needed to wait stuff on it. What they already did is, if you see it, they have a beta release. Releases. There are releases. They have a beta release, what is now 4 months old. It's the first 1.3 release, and they did a lot of changes. That they changed from full framework to .NET 5, and also the C++ stuff changed. So it looks like they started from start. I don't know. I think they had to rewrite a lot of stuff for Windows 11 and for ARM64. And this, yeah. So didn't happen that much. Sadly, it's not open source that the community could help them. Yeah. But yeah, it's. I hope gets more. More stuff soon. It's now with Windows 11 out there, that they put more effort and more time and in it. Sorry. Good. So there was a question about boilerplate code in tests. I would say it depends on, I would say no, but I'm used to it, so it's what's more the problem is with boilerplate code in tests is that when we have here test for MS tester and unit, so when we're talking about boilerplate code, then the first thing what is boilerplate for me are the whole attributes on the stuff, because that's that new. So if we're talking about top level statements, this everything, for me let's create a file. Public void test method on public void. So if this would work, yay. But this is not only for tests. I think it's not only a C# thing, but also a unit test runner thing, that they have their special attributes there to identify the stuff. So until there isn't changes, you still need too much. It's a possibility to go there, but for me, boilerplate code is all about making it more accessible for new people to get into this. I'm doing this since, I don't know, 10-15 years. I know what this is. But for new people, where you have now 10 concepts here, having reduced to that, that's where for me boilerplate code removing is important, and I don't see it yet happen. And the comment about static unit tests method, I'm completely fair and true here. Why do I need static unit test method? I don't see the reason for it. Why? What is here different also that I add static to it? Perhaps Stefan, do you have an idea? Can you explain it to me? I have no idea what this brings me more. Okay, that you don't have state that can be shared, but XUnit creates new instances for the test class anyway, so you can't share them easily with each other. NUnit reuses it. Yeah, for NUnit it's yes. So NUnit has the, I think, stupid behavior that it reuses the class instance. But yeah, that's the behavior. So that's simply you. Yeah, it's stupid because you have to clean up. Yeah. So that's XUnit creates new instances, so you don't. Yeah, it cleans up after yourself. Good. So, yeah. Thanks, Stefan, for the answer. So did I think that was all the questions in chat that I found. So if you have no other questions, you have now the chance to ask them in chat, please. Can you show more of the fluent spec thing? You mean SpecFlow. I can quickly show you stuff in our docs. I'm on my private machine. So no, that was the wrong documentation. So where is it? getting started guide. So, what SpecFlow gives you the option is, where is it? Where's this? Stop. So, here's the shot that I'm looking for. So what SpecFlow gives you the option is to define your scenarios or test cases in English, German, French or so, and using a language called Gherkin. Gherkin gives you some keywords, the blue ones here. And what you have here is, yeah, you can write down in plain language, natural language. Here's a calculator, so you can write scenario add to names. Then you can say, given the first number is 50, the second number is 70, when the two numbers are added, and then the result should be 120. And this is for for coded testing. There's this array. Often, perhaps you heard it. I didn't mention it. Arrange, act, assert. These three phases. You arrange you arrange everything. Okay, this image isn't zooming. I have to talk with the team. You arrange your system under test, then you make your action that you want to check, and at the end you make your assertions. And SpecFlow, let's write you this here in language, and then you can write so-called bindings, like this one, where you have then your implementation. So in this case, for this given the first number is, you have then your automation in that. And the idea is that because you have it in natural language, you could go and can go to your users, to your customers, and discuss in case of concrete examples how the application should behave, if this is correct. Because now it's now English, they can read it, they can understand it, and can say, yes, this is correct, no, this is not correct. And SpecFlow is a small part of the whole concept is called behavior-driven development. And yes, it's something with DD, but not exactly with TDD. It's a kind of process how you go and define your acceptance criteria, how to get to concrete examples that you can then automate. There. The best thing, join one of our webinars. Okay, we don't have yet a getting started webinar announced yet. I'm currently on parental leave, and talk with the team. This is the link where you can then register for a webinar. It's about an hour. We will explain it from the start, and have also time for questions. And yeah, the question arises: what is the difference between SpecFlow and Gherkin Cucumber? SpecFlow is for .NET. Cucumber is for JavaScript, Java, Python, Perl, and everything else. That's it. We are working with the Cucumber guys together, people together, and yeah, SpecFlow is the .NET implementation for it. So, yeah, that was the very quick intro into SpecFlow. Yeah, this takes an hour alone. Good. Yeah, with that, let's end the webinar for today. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the great questions. Again, thanks to our sponsors, OGS, Theater Avery and Rubicon, and also JetBrains. If you want to sponsor us, talk with us, find something on our website. Now, the real cool things. So, next meetups. Got some cool talks in the pipeline. So, November 9th, right after the .NET Conf keynote, we have a talk by Will. I don't know yet how to pronounce his last name. Building developer tooling with Roslyn. This is C# wrapper. He will talk to us how we develop the C# REPL. That's a command line REPL that's using Roslyn to get all these nice things here. So very looking forward to that. And the December meetup is December 7th. Build connected things with Meadow and C# by George Ramirez. Meadow is the Wilderness Labs is the IoT platform where you can write C# code directly on it. This small thing, the F7 micro, does .NET Standard 2. So you can write .NET code and deploy it and run it on it, and George will show us how to do this. So, personally looking very forward to these 2 talks, and we are already looking for speakers for next year. And yeah, both talks are still remote. Yeah, no concrete plans yet to have in-person meetups yet, Lana. Mr. Hennon, yeah, please reach out to me. We are always looking for speakers. Reach out to me. My email address is andreas@willich.io. I should have used Notepad. Cool. Thanks for the link. If you don't write me, I will write you. Yeah, we're always looking for speakers. So if you have also for topics, if you only want to hear something, but because you find it interesting, let us know. We will look for a speaker. Yeah. Yeah, also please spread the word that we exist and do the stuff. So invite colleagues, friends, customer, everybody you know and has something to do with .NET. Again, all the links to our where we are available. Recording of this talk should go up in some days on the YouTube channel. And with that, yeah, we always want to try to make these webinars better, and for that we need we would like to have your feedback. And give me a moment before I share the link, because I forget to change something. So now it should work. Yeah, we would like to have feedback on our webinars to make it better in the future. And there's also then, if you fill it out at the end, there's also the option to enter the raffle for the JetBrains 12 months product license. So, and I hope this is now working, because let's quickly check. Yeah, It's working. Cool. Yeah, with that, I wish you all a nice rest of the day. Depending on where you are, it's more or less. And I hope we see us in the next one. Bye. Thanks. I will.